Welcome to the One World Quickfire Debates brought to you by Concern Worldwide. I am Jane Donaldson from Concern, and I am delighted to introduce today's debate. The motion for today is women are still considered second class, and is particularly apt given today is the International Day of the Girl Child. Proposing this motion we have Emma Corry, community fundraiser at Marie Curie, and opposing we have Roisin Neill, a former debates champion and pharmacist. Both have been extremely involved with the Concern Debates programme, with Emma having adjudicated for the programme for 5 years, and Roisin, who was part of the Cross and Passion College team, who became national champions in 2016. So, without further ado, I invite the proposition Emma Corry to open the debate.
In Beyoncé's 2011 hit, she sings "Girls Run the World," but do they? Or are women and girls still considered second class? Women have the right to vote, to be elected, to own property, so surely today women have equal rights and equal opportunities. Evidence shows this is not the case, and women are still considered second class. As Caroline Criado Perez argues in her book Invisible Woman, our world is default male, and women are treated as other to men rather than equals. Women are underrepresented in societies across the world, from politics to entertainment to the workplace. This is recognised by the UN, and the 5th Sustainable Development Goal is to empower women and girls to ensure their equal rights. UN Women says that women only serve as heads of government in 22 countries and aren't expected to be equal with men in the highest positions of power for another 130 years. Here in Northern Ireland, women are consistently underrepresented in leadership positions. A stark example is in the health and social care sector, where women make up 79% of all staff, but just 20% of trust chairs and CEOs. Adding to this underrepresentation is underpayment. The income gap has narrowed, but women are still second-class citizens, earning less than men for doing the same job. You might argue that progress has been made, but when the Forbes list of the world's 100 highest paid athletes has just 2 women, Naomi Osaka and Serena Williams, there is clearly a long way to go. But there has been great progress in women's representation, and surely they are now treated equally. This is simply not true. In her book Invisible Woman, Perez shares numerous examples of how research that excludes women and their bodies is disastrous, sometimes fatal, and how most of recorded human history is one big data gap. Your iPhone is made for a typical male-sized hand. Car crash dummies are based on a male model, so safety features are designed accordingly, leaving women 47% more likely to be injured or killed in car accidents. According to the British Medical Journal, women are 3 times more likely to have a fatal heart attack than men because they are less likely to experience classic symptoms that were discovered in research led by men, in which most of the participants were men. Many health conditions like chronic fatigue syndrome that predominantly affect women are under-researched and often dismissed as being psychological in origin. Women are told to get on with it. There's just not as much research money and attention on conditions that primarily affect women. And although there are policies helping to address the gender divide in medicine, there is still a long way to go. The COVID pandemic has highlighted further that women are second class. Women for Women International said that 75% of unpaid care work is done by women, and throughout the pandemic, women have consistently spent more time on unpaid childcare and unpaid housework than men. There have been great strides in women's empowerment, but as UN Women warn, there is still a long way to go to ensure women achieve full equality of rights and opportunities. Women should no longer be second class and treated as other to men, but instead treated as equals. Over to you, Roisin.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, women have been ruling across the globe for centuries. The first queen of Egypt over 5,000 years ago, Hatshepsut, was also the second historically confirmed female pharaoh. To Empress Theodora of Byzantium, whose involvement in the increase of women's rights in the nation were substantial. The first recorded female ruler in history, Kubaba, was dated 2400 BC, the queen of the nation formerly known as Sumer, now Iraq. Looking closer at today's world, it's obvious the strides that have been made in gender equality in first world countries, with historic women's rights marches taking place in 2017 and 18, alongside the ignition of the Me Too movement. Kamala Harris also became the first woman vice president-elect of the United States, breaking the patriarchal walls built around American politics for so many years, as well as Joe Biden announcing the first all-women senior communications team, a first for the White House. On smaller scales, even from 2008, the majority of women living in America were choosing to live without a spouse, according to a New York Times analysis of census results at the time. This had increased from 35% in the 1950s and 49% in 2000. The Washington Brookings Institution expert described this shift as, quote, a clear tipping point reflecting the culmination of post-1960s trends associated with greater independence and more flexible lifestyles for women. Scotland even recently unanimously voted in favour of the Period Products Bill, making it the first country to allow free and universal access to menstrual products. This marks a great victory in the movement against period products for people experiencing menstruation. Achieving gender equality itself is about globally unlearning attitudes that have been centuries in the making across education, work, government services, and cultural behaviours. According to findings by the McKinsey Company, rates of sex-specific abortions have declined, education for girls in developing countries is improving, and I witnessed myself in 2016 the work Concern implements in Malawi through their grassroots soccer project for girls, in order to cultivate a safe learning environment that allows children to stay children. The Middle East overall has also improved in health and education, with more girls attending primary, secondary and tertiary levels of education, and in these sectors they're outperforming the men academically. In America and Australia, 56% of university degrees are issued to women, and in China, the Philippines and Singapore, 53% of university degrees are issued to women. Emma Corry herself mentioned the health and social sectors, and I'm a pharmacist in training, and the majority of colleagues that I work with are female. In fact, 61% of registrants on the General Pharmaceutical Council identify as women. Emma again mentioned COVID, but there's also been a notable difference in the flexibility the workplace is willing to offer mothers and caregivers globally, as well as an appreciation for the women already in these sectors and their capabilities. Finland's Sanna Marin, New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern, and Germany's Angela Merkel, just to name a few among others, who handled the outbreak of this deadly pandemic in their respective countries with such vigilance and professionalism, they were centre stage on how to return to normal life. At the end of 2020, two female doctors, Dr. Jennifer Doudna and Dr. Emmanuelle Charpentier, were the first pair of females to win a Nobel Prize in history without having to share it with a man. I believe Eleanor Roosevelt said it best when she said, "Nobody can make you feel inadequate without your consent." Thank you. Back to you, Emma.
Okay, thank you, Roisin. I think Roisin's given some great examples of progress that has been made, but the facts are that women are still considered second class, and the evidence is really clear for that in all parts of the world. Roisin gave some good examples of female leaders that have been throughout history, but the fact is, as the UN said, the rate that we're going, it's going to take 130 years to get proper representation across the world. I think also some good examples were mentioned in how, for example, period products have been brought in payment for period products has been brought in Scotland. But the fact is there's so much more to do, and there is so much more that needs to be done to ensure that women are not treated as other to men or as something niche, but instead are treated as equal. Roisin also mentioned about how more girls are being educated in the Middle East, but I think currently what's happening in Afghanistan now, that girls aren't now being allowed to go to school, really shows that there are also some places that are going backwards. And so clearly, as the UN Women Foundation said, women won't be equal anywhere until they're equal everywhere. And the number you mentioned as well, Roisin mentioned the number of Nobel Prize winners, but the fact is there is a huge disparity in the number of male Nobel Prize winners compared to women. So I think while progress has been made, unfortunately, women are still second class and there's still a lot more work to be done. So back to you, Roisin.
Hello again. Emma had made a point on the discrepancies in sport, but I'd just like to point out that just last year, Brazil and Sierra Leone have pledged to join the ranks of countries that are going to pay their male and female footballers the same. I know it's not a sweeping statement across the world that this progress is happening everywhere, and 130 years for total equality it's not a great number, but it's better than us never feeling like we're going to achieve it. And at the rate we're going, we can always pick it up. And to focus on the areas like Afghanistan where people are being totally stripped, of course it's important. But is that really second class, or is that worse than second class? Like, is that second class person, or is that women not even being viewed as people, more of an object, not second class, not even on the same flight, not in the same ballpark of a game? I said about how it's more of a systemic attitude change that has to take place. So as Emma said, most people would believe the world's default is a man, but I once read somewhere you can't always help the first thought that comes to your mind, but you're responsible for your second thought and your first word. So if we can manage the response that people have to crimes against women, violence against women, discrimination against women, and manage how the conversations are had, we can start to make an impact in the attitudes people have towards it. Like in June of this year, a campaign group called Level Up, ran by Janie Starling and Say Folodon Libbard, were able to get media regulators to issue new press guidelines on how the press can report on domestic and violent crimes. And their aim is to change the way the conversations are had and to change attitudes moving forward so we can increase that rate of 130 years to equality.
Well, thank you to both Emma and Roisin for such an engaging and interesting debate. Both sides of the motion clearly give well thought out and informative arguments, so well done to both. While there is no winner or loser in today's debate, we know that gender inequality remains the most common form of inequality across the globe, and it represents one of the biggest barriers to ending extreme poverty. Concern recognises that promoting gender equality is key to achieving sustainable development, and we know that empowering women is one of the best ways that we can work towards ending global hunger, poverty and conflict. That is why we place women and girls at the heart of every programme, and why we have launched our new global community called Women of Concern, to connect you with change-making women who are on the front lines creating practical and positive change in some of the world's poorest places. We bring their voices to the forefront and share their stories with you through a range of thought-provoking events, videos, blogs and more. If you're interested in joining our Women of Concern community and connecting with these incredible women who are forging real and lasting change around the world, we invite you to sign up now on our website and to follow us on LinkedIn by searching Women of Concern. So thank you again to Emma and Roisin, and I hope you have all enjoyed today's debate as much as we did. So thank you.